welcome back to my channel. I just wanted to do something a little bit cozy with you guys. I got my glow-in-the-dark unicorn blanket that I got from Walmart when I was in Arizona, and it was $10, and it's just like a kid's little blanket, so it's not very big, but super cute. And then the one day I was sick, and we were actually washing my bedding, so I was just like lying down on the protective sheet and then had this blanket wrapped around me, and it was glowing and it was like bugging me. I had like a headache, and I'm like, glow-in-the-dark blankets are a terrible idea. But when I saw it in the store, I thought it was like the best idea ever. Anyway, so my husband went out to do a little bit of work today for his parents have some rental properties and they needed something fixed, so my husband is the go-to fixer-upper guy. He has his ticket. He's by trade an electrician, but in practicality, he's like a plumber, electrician, drywaller, like whatever you need, right? Because he's a handyman, I guess. But if you need any electrical work done, you can call my husband for sure. So he picked up some Tim Hortons coffee. So I got it my cute little birthday cup, narwhal cup. And I just wanted to be a little bit more cozy and informal with you guys, but talk to you about just something that's been on my mind a lot, and especially the last even 2 years, but the last 6 months to a year. I've been a mom for 8 years now. My daughter turned 8 in January, so just a little over 8 years now. So my daughter is 8, and then our youngest, and then 6, she'll be 6.5 soon, and then our 4-year-old. So I'm a mom of 3, and before that I've grown up with dogs, always had dogs. The first dog that I remember having was a German Shepherd. Like my stepdad, basically. My mom started seeing this guy and he had a German Shepherd. So I grew up with that dog. We were both the same age. His birthday was in April and mine was in November. So I was around 5 when my mom and him got together. So the dog was about 5 and he was a beautiful dog. I'll post a picture. Just a beautiful, beautiful German Shepherd. He was like 120 pounds. Outdoor guard dog, but I just loved him, and he was really good. Like, we were respectful of him for the most part, considering how young we were, me and my brother, like 5 years old, but he was really good with us too and patient. And I remember just going for walks with him into the woods, into the forest. And I guess when you go with a 120-pound German Shepherd, you're not really worried about bad people getting you because you have this big guard dog with you. And we just go for walks, and it felt like hours I'd be gone. I don't know for real how long I'd be gone, but it was more than a few minutes because I would be walking away from the house. And then my mom was gone she went out to go visit a friend and then came back with a puppy, and we still had our German Shepherd, and it was like a Maltese terrier poodle like cross thing, this tiny little yappy dog, little white fluffy thing that we named Pico because my mom was working at a place called Pico at the time, and it means like little things. And he's just this little mutt of a dog. And sadly, he ended up getting hit by a car. We only had him a couple months. And he was really cute, really fun, but definitely a yappy little dog. And sadly, he was hit. And then we got, through another friend, we ended up getting this Chihuahua. So we had her for a little bit before our German Shepherd passed away. So we went from a 120-pound German Shepherd to a 6-pound Chihuahua who wasn't even fully grown when we got her. And we had her in 2000. We got her, and my mom had her put down in 2017. So a very long time with that dog. We had her from the time I was 13 till 29. So great little dog. And I was just talking about yappy little dogs. Everyone was like, oh, what kind of dog you have? Chihuahua. And they're like, oh, those yappy little things. And honestly, she was one of the best Chihuahuas that I've ever known or met. And she would bark at things like a dog should bark at things, like someone coming to the door. But you'd be like, okay, that's enough. And she was pretty quiet. She never forgave me for having children. Like I said, we got her in 2000, and then my daughter was born in 2012. So she was 12 years old and wasn't living with us. My mom had her from 2010 until the end of her life. But I would go visit. And Sophie was a few months old when she met Buffy, and Buffy was not happy and never forgave me. I said, I'm sorry. My daughter, or my children, would only be 3 years old now if I waited. So I'm sorry, Buffy. I hope you forgive me. And in 2005, we got a little poodle cross, me and my mom and my brother. And I had that dog until 2015. And he was a yappy little dog. He was about 12 pounds. Very yappy little thing and very stressful. He was very attached to me and would not allow other people around. He'd bark. He'd snap at them. He barked constantly. And in 2015, I was pregnant with our 3rd child. He did not like kids. We would have to either keep him away from the kids or put on like a soft muzzle on him. If we considered him a serious danger to our children, obviously we would have got rid of him sooner than that, but it was manageable at the time. But just being pregnant with my third, and he would stress me out, which would stress him out, and then he'd get anxious, and like a car door 3 doors down could slam and he would just freak out and start barking. And I had that dog 10 years, and we gave him away to a senior animal rescue society. And they found him a home, and I think he lived a couple years there, and sadly he's gone now too. But I just pray that the last few years of his life were good ones, and I felt so bad giving him up, but I knew it was the best thing I could do for him. So we got Buffy in 2000, Boston in 2005. I think BJ passed away around 2000. Blackjack, our German Shepherd. And in 2008, we got our Basset Hound. She's the one that stars in my videos now, and she's 11 and a half years old, and she's kind of a good and bad dog. We didn't do the dog training that we should have with her. She steals food, and she's food aggressive, and she would attack Boston a lot. And I know it sounds terrible. You're all like, why would you allow this abuse to happen or whatever? I know it sounds terrible, but you don't know. I just pray you're not judging me for the decisions I made at the time. But she's a very sweet dog, and she's not aggressive, just around food. And she's never really been aggressive around humans. It's just other animals with food. Now as she gets older, and if the kids jump on her and stuff, she does get a little bit snappy, but never has ever bitten. And that doesn't mean she won't bite, and I understand that, but our kids are getting older and they're understanding more. But you know, kids and old dogs just are not a good mix anyways. But we have no intentions of getting rid of her before the end of her natural life, of course. And I would love to have another pet, another dog. My allergies are terrible right now, and all the hyperallergenic dogs, I don't like them. The dogs I want, no, I love all dogs. I'm a dog person, but the breeds that I specifically want are not hypoallergenic. And this is not a video about dogs and dog breeds and stuff, but purebred dogs tend to have more issues than mutts. But the purebred dogs that I like and I would get another Basset Hound again in a heartbeat, but I would have them trained, especially for food. Like, she's not just food aggressive, she steals our food. If it's in front of her, it's gone. If the kids have like toast in their hand and they put their hand down, the food is gone. She's very bad that way. She has climbed up on counters, on islands. She's like a foot tall, 2 feet tall, but she's so long, right? So when she stands up, her head reaches our counter when she stands up on her hind legs. And she just steals everything. She has climbed up, pushed out chairs, climbed up on chairs, onto tables, onto counters, and eaten like all the Christmas baking, everything. She's very, very bad that way. But in other ways, she's good. Like, she's not yappy. We got her, like I said, in 2008, and Boston was 3, and he was neurotic, and he needed some like puppy Prozac. And she never picked up on those things. She will bark when people come home now. She just loves people. She wants attention from people. We go to the dog park and she goes and sits in front of the people and she's like, pet me. And she's got these big brown eyes and her long fluffy ears, and she just gets all the attention from the people, and she loves it. And she likes other dogs. And when we go for walks and stuff, she wants to go see them. But as she's gotten older, she's kind of like, I want to see you. And then she says, oh, I'm done. I'm good. Thanks for seeing me. And so she's really good that way, and I'm just so thankful that she did not pick up on the neuroticism from our dog, Boston. But the other breeds that I want, we've had 3 purebred dogs, German Shepherds, known for hip dysplasia, and I'm sure he had that at the very end, but for the most part, he was actually pretty healthy. Chihuahuas can be known for heart murmurs, and our dog, they discovered a heart murmur in 4 out of 7 chambers of her heart when she was 10. She did have a few seizures between then and passing away at 17, but again, she was 17. She lived a very long and healthy life. Anyone would tell you she should have been put down closer to 2015, closer to 15 years old. But again, that's in the past. It is what it is. She was still getting up. She was still eating. She was still, for the most part, going to the bathroom outside. Yes, we hung on, and it was ultimately my mom's decision. And yes, we held on a little bit longer than we should have, but she wasn't so bad either. Like I said, she wasn't peeing and pooping in her bed and not being able to get out of her bed. She was going deaf and blind and being scared at home alone, which is the hardest part to think about, but it's in the past. She's gone now. She's in a better place, and hopefully has forgiven me for having children. And then Basset Hounds are known for having bad arthritis, especially ones that are overweight. Like I said, she's about 2 feet tall, and they have They can be anywhere from 50 to 70 pounds. So imagine being extremely overweight on a 5 foot tall person and weighing like a couple hundred pounds, right? Like, obviously this is not about body shaming. We're talking about dogs, but the truth is that much weight on a short stature, on a smaller stature, is a lot on your body and on your joints and stuff. So Basset Hounds can be known for arthritis, which is something that she's dealing with, but that's also an old dog thing as well. And she's been remarkably healthy. She's got the long ears. Sometimes they're known for ear infections, which she's had a couple, but nothing like major. She's been very healthy. The biggest problem with her has been her teeth, and she should actually have all her teeth removed, but she doesn't. We've removed half of her teeth. We cannot afford to remove the other half, and she seems to be doing okay, but my Dex dog will definitely be getting a toothbrush and some floss and getting better dental hygiene. So anyone with puppies out there, brush their teeth. I would definitely get another Basset Hound. Any dog I get in the future I'll want some puppy training or dog training if we adopt an older dog. Basset Hounds are just the cutest things, honestly, with their ears, and they're so soft and everything. And very good for our family. We're not super athletic, but they are hounds and they are hunters. So they can go, like, we could go walking and like hiking with them for a very long time. And she would be able to keep up with us. Now she's very slow, and there's times I've dropped the leash and run after kids, and she's just like sauntering along behind us. As a hound, as a younger hound, she could catch a scent. Even now she could, but just being older, she just listens better that way. Again, always keep in mind with hounds and hunting dogs, they catch a scent, they could be gone. So me just dropping her leash, I do that because she's older and slower, and I know my dog. So don't just think you could do that with any dog and chase children. Obviously your children are more important, and if you gotta drop the dog leash and go, then do that. But don't trust your dog necessarily just to come back to you. Know your dog. Anyways, I want a French Bulldog. I'm like obsessed with French Bulldogs right now. They're just the cutest little things, and I love them. And Great Danes. I've always wanted a Great Dane. Yes, I know Great Danes are very large dogs, and they eat like 5 to 7 cups of food a day. Great Danes, being such big dogs, typically have heart problems and only live on average 7 years, which is very sad. But you know that going into these breeds. I know these things, and I do my research. But just looks wise, I want a Great Dane. They're so beautiful. I want one. And I always wanted, like, people get like the Great Dane and the Chihuahua because of the size difference, which is like funny and whatever, but I actually wanted a Great Dane and a Basset Hound. So I got my Basset Hound, but I haven't got my Great Dane yet. So maybe one day. But our only non-purebred dog was hypoallergenic, which was Boston, and that was one of the hardest parts about getting rid of Boston, having to give him up. I hate saying getting rid of him, but having to make that very difficult decision to surrender him to a rescue society and finding him a home was that he was hypoallergenic, and I could just cuddle him, and he never bothered my asthma or allergies, and he was like half poodle, so he had the really wiry fur, and he didn't really shed, so he was a lot of maintenance to like constantly have to cut his fur and brush him and bath him, and very dirty little white dog, but really great for allergies and stuff. And I know they do mix poodles with a lot of things like labradoodles and things like that, so that might be something we would look into in the future. Those are just not the kinds of breeds of dogs I've personally wanted. Not that they're not great dogs and people talk about them and talk about how amazing they are, but it's just not the kind of breeds that I've naturally been attracted to. Anyways, I blabbered on for like 15 minutes about dogs, and this video is supposed to be about dogs and kids. So I started talking about how I've been a mom for 8 years. So as a teenager, I discovered the dog whisperer, Cesar Millan, and I watched him, and I would watch his shows and cry either every episode or every case in each episode. So like 2 or 3 dogs or whatever he would deal with in each episode, and I would just bawl my eyes out. And I would see dogs like Boston and him just like walk in, and it just felt like magic, and these dogs would be so much better, and I would just cry and cry and cry because I couldn't do that for my dog. I didn't have that energy. I was only 17 when we got Boston, so it was just really hard for me, and I know the issues I had with Boston were not just him. His breed was a little bit more high strung and maybe more prone to anxiety, but it was also my own personality, and that was a really hard thing to come to terms with. And like I said, I held on to him for 10 years, and it was too long, and I knew in my heart it was the right thing to give him up. But yeah, I would watch Cesar Millan, and then there was like the Canadian version at the end of my leash. that I really like. I found him a little bit maybe more stricter, but when it comes to dog training and stuff like that, you have to go with somebody who gets results, but that you're also comfortable with and agree with their methods. That doesn't mean that, like, if you just don't like, if you can't find a dog trainer that you agree with and you just have like a really badly behaved dog, maybe it's more your issues that you have to deal with more than their methods. But obviously you know what you're comfortable with. Same with raising children and discipline. Some people will say spank your kids and other people are like mortified by that. Some people have anger issues and they spank their kids and it's not an act of discipline, it's an act of abuse. Even if they're not leaving marks or anything like that, it's just a way for them to vent their own anger on their children in a physical way. Kind of like people who get angry and they go for a jog or punch a punching bag. You're releasing that very high energy out in a physical way, but spanking can turn into that for some people. So with dogs and kids, obviously you need to find what you're comfortable with and what discipline means for you in both of those cases. So as a teenager and early adult, I was looking at dog training like videos and stuff like that, and then as a kid when I started having kids, I was looking into more parenting books, obviously, and disciplining and how do you do this, how do you do that, how do you do with this issue and that issue and everything. And I started seeing the similarities between raising kids and training dogs. And it's kind of funny because, you know, humans are a lot more complicated than dogs, but the basic starting grounds are pretty similar with puppy training versus raising human beings. Things like consistency. Always being consistent with your dog. If you want to teach your puppy to go to the bathroom in one specific spot in your yard, every time you take that dog out to go to the bathroom, you put them in that spot and you praise them for going in that spot. Every time. You want your dog to like sit down and lie down and be calm before eating, you have to do it before every meal. Things like that. If you want your dog to be crate trained, then you have to put them in the crate every night. The same time every night kind of thing. You're consistent. Same with kids. If they're not allowed to eat in the living room, you don't let them eat in the living room. Are there going to be exceptions to these rules with kids? Of course, because kids, human beings, like I said, are more complex with dogs. Usually you give an exception to a dog and the dog doesn't have the understanding to know why I'm allowed to sit on the couch today, but I wasn't yesterday and now I'm not allowed today, but I was. Or tomorrow I'm not allowed and yesterday I wasn't allowed, but today I'm allowed on the couch. They don't understand. You let them on the couch, they think they're just allowed on the couch all the time. With kids, if you say we eat every single meal, every single day at the dining room table, except for Sunday mornings we eat breakfast at the bar. Or Friday nights, every other Friday night we eat pizza in the living room watching a movie. Kids at a certain age will understand the exception to the rule. So there are obviously nuances and exceptions and everything like that, but I saw the similarities between dogs and kids. So I said, I'm going to write a book about how raising kids is like training dogs. So for the past probably 5 years, I've been working on this book and I have probably 300 pages worth of material, of thoughts. And basically at this point, all I did was read a bunch of parenting books and read a bunch of dog training books, copy quotes from them that had to do with like how this dog training quote goes to this children's discipline type thing, and just seeing the similarities and then putting in my own thoughts. And obviously I'm a Christian, so I put a faith spin on it and different scriptures that might fit in here or there. Now I've gone to the point where I need a very serious editor who can put all my jumbled mess into a coherent book, especially with all the quotes and stuff. How many quotes can I put in from other authors, other books, without me being like plagiarizing all these people, making the decision like how many quotes should I take out, this and that, all that stuff. But that's not my issue. My first issue is having the money to do it, because editing and publishing and all that costs money, and there's different routes to go. Do you go with a typical publisher? Do I go with a Christian publisher because it is a Christian book, technically faith-based book? Do I go like the indie route? Do I just try and publish it as an ebook, which I don't want to do? I want to be able to publish it as paperback book. My issue is my children and my dog. How can I write a parenting book? And I'm sure every single person who's written a parenting book feels this way, but how can I write a parenting book about training dogs, raising kids, when my dog steals food, is food aggressive, doesn't listen very well, is a little bit not the best mannered? Like I said, when people come in, she'll jump on them and getting their, especially if people bring over kids with me having children, she's like right up there in their face. And I'm like, this poor baby who's just learning how to walk is being pushed over by this dog. And food stealing, that's the number one, is the food stealing. How can I write about training dogs when my dog is not listening? How can I write about the importance of rules, boundaries, and limitations? Those are the three that season 1 talks about with your dogs: rules, boundaries, and limitations. How can I talk about those in the context of children and being consistent and being disciplined and this and that and everything when I feel like my kids are... I have good kids. I have good kids. I do have good kids. Really, I do. I've had other people tell me I have good kids. People outside of my family telling me I have good kids. But some days just feel so out of control. And like this whole quarantine thing has obviously made an impact on our life and our daily schedules, but we never were really part of a lot of sports teams and stuff like that. It's not like my kids have been kicked out of swimming and basketball and baseball and soccer and gymnastics and dance and all this stuff because we weren't really involved in any of those things at the time, because those cost money and are a lot of energy and a lot of time. But like, we would go to the library, and the library had a French Mondays program, which was originally 6 to 8 p.m., but they changed it from, I think, 6 to 7, not 7 to 8, 6 to 7. And so I put it was 6 and up for that, like 6 to 12. So I put my 2 daughters in it, and then I would be with my son, and he could play with the Lego or play with the train set or play with these magnet toys, or they have iPads at the library that's all the kids wanted to do. But there were some days where the library is a part of this big rec center, and the rec center has an indoor playground, and it has Jugendfreus, and there's the Jugendfreus and then the playground, and he would just bolt. So the library, like when you first walk into the rec center, the library is right on the left, right there. So he would run all the way to the other side of the rec center. You guys aren't on a very stable thing, sorry. He would run all the way to the other side of the rec center and either go to the Jugendfreus or go try to play in the indoor playground, or just disappear on me and I wouldn't be able to find him. And it was very stressful. And trying to leave the library and get off the iPads and do this and that. And I just have a lot of trouble getting my son to listen. And at school, he's the one who's gotten in trouble at school the most, which is kind of what I was expecting. I thought maybe our first daughter would get in trouble more for talking and just being more of a distraction that way. Maybe being a little bit of a class clown. But no, we haven't had any issues with the first two, with our daughters, and at school. But with our son, it's like, if he can't sit down in the library, he's not gonna be allowed to go to the library anymore. If we're outside and he can't come back when he's called, he's gonna have to just sit in the office and not play outside anymore, because, people say like that's wrong, he needs to get out, they're little kids, he's 4 years old, he can't be expected to listen. But at the same time, I understand when you're dealing with like 26 other kids and they're all like 4 or 5 years old, it's not fair if one of them is running around and not listening, 1 or 2 or even 3 of them. Like, it's just not fair. And a lot of his issues with not listening and stuff, like, he's so sweet and he always wants to help out and he wants to do this and he wants to do that, but he just doesn't understand, like, no. He's like, I want to help you do this. And it's like, okay, but you need to wait to do this for this step, like say baking cookies or something. But he just can't wait and he just wants to do it all, and that part I understand, he's only 4. But the school actually had his hearing tested because they would be calling him. They're like, Rylan, come back, come here, like, it's time to stop playing, you need to pack up, you need to do this, you need to do that. And he just would not listen. And he would not turn around, he wouldn't acknowledge them, anything. So they had his hearing tested and it's perfect. He passed everything. He can hear at all, like, levels. I'm sure he can, if I blew a dog whistle right now, I'm sure he'd come running. Maybe that's what I need to do. How to train your dog, how to raise your kids, like training dogs. I need to buy like some kind of kid whistle or something. I don't know. I just feel like, how can I write this book? How can I feel like the biggest hypocrite in the world, putting out this book out there that it's like, do this to have good kids, and my kids are not like that at all. Do this to raise a good dog, but then I'm turning around and yelling at my dog for stealing the 7th piece of toast for the day. And there's definitely a big difference between theory and practice. In theory, I believe this book is true, and I agree with everything in the book. Obviously, I wrote it. But putting those things into practice is totally different. I can read all the books in the world about great parenting, but if I just sit on my butt all day and do nothing, I'm not going to be a very great parent. And that's the same with my book. I need to put the principles that I have found and read and discovered while writing this book and doing research for this book, I have to put them into practice, or it doesn't matter. It's not going to make a difference. And that's my biggest part of being lazy and disconnected. I am so disconnected from my life right now, and I have been for probably a few years. And I don't know if I've talked about this in another video or not, but I think I have, but I'm not an alcoholic. I've never smoked. I've been drunk like once in my life. I'm not a big fan of alcoholic drinks. I do like the more sugary drinks and stuff. I don't drink beer or wine or anything, but I can have like Bailey's in my coffee, or Bailey's like a brown cow, like Bailey's and milk or something. Kahlua, mudslides, things like that. Depending on the day, like my stomach is not very good, I could have like 3 drinks and be violently ill without feeling like drunk or anything, but just violently ill. It upsets my stomach really bad. I don't find escape in drinking alcohol, or I've never smoked weed or smoked cigarettes or anything like that, or tried any harder drugs besides over the counter or prescription, but I'm not addicted to any prescription drugs or anything like that. I more escape into books, Netflix, YouTube, social media, things like that, just escaping in other ways. I do crochet and cross stitch and stuff like that, so I'll just like put on YouTube or an audiobook or something and just want to focus on that and neglect my life, not neglect my children, but neglect the chores and stuff like that. And I admit that, and I've never been a very type A person who needs this, get this done and get that done, and like working really hard to get that done, and that's just not necessarily my personality either. So I know there's part is personality and part is just you gotta do the work no matter how lazy you are. Like laziness is not a personality trait, but some people are wired differently than others. So I'm not wired to like work and just get stuff done. I'm a little bit slower, easily distracted, things like that, and then lazy on top of all that. So but yeah, do I write this book? How to Train Out. I don't even know what it's called. It's my own book. I can't even name it. How Raising Kids is Like Training Dogs. Do I step forward into that? I've been praying about it, and I don't know. I can't afford the money to do it, but I could. Like, I was talking to an editor, publisher, like Frisian Publishing or something, and he's like, a lot of people take out a loan, and it's not a huge loan. I could do it. But it's just more, do I want to put my money into something like this that's just going to be another flop in my life that isn't going to go anywhere, right? Like, that's a whole other video. But I just wanted to talk about being a dog owner, a doggy mama, and a human mama, and the similarities and the differences, and the book I've been writing because of that, because of those things, and just where do I go from here? Because I would hate to put out a book and just feel like this big, huge hypocrite about it. And so I guess I just wanted your thoughts, your opinions on it. Maybe during this whole quarantine thing and having the kids home a little bit more, I can break through that disconnectedness and really just push to be more connected with my family and engaged with my family. And maybe we can have a couple of technology-free days. I don't know. I feel like I've just rambled on for 40 minutes, and I don't even know if I've made myself clear or not. But my mug is really cute. Coffee's cold now, but it's still good. But let me know what you think. Are you a writer? What are your struggles with a writer? Have you ever had anything published? And what route did you go for publishing? Did you go traditional or like indie publishing? Or yeah, what are your thoughts? Thank you for sticking out with me while I ramble on about being a mom and the inconsistencies, no matter how many times I write or talk about how consistent you need to be, the inconsistencies with life and the stresses, and do I go forward with writing this book or not? Pray for me, please. I'm praying for all of you while we are stuck in this quarantine and just during these really interesting, trying, weird times. And I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching, and bye.